Here's another video on the Trump assassination attempt based on a breakdown of what tactics went well, what things went wrong, what logistics and resources, and this whole scenario created of how could something like this have happened. I continue to field questions from friends and families and viewers of mine asking me, because they know my over a decade-year background on the SWAT team and orchestrating missions, including the personal protection details and things like that, of just how could something like this, they're looking for some answers. They're wanting someone to fill in the gap and not rely on just what is being seen on social media or news outlets, because unfortunately so much of that is tainted or just conspiracy theories and harebrained ideas. So I want to cover a few things with you. This is the shot that took place. The stage is down here in red, and you can see that this guy, we finally know the suspect, climbed up on the roof. There was a ladder put in place, and he fired onto the stage, narrowly missing Trump's actual targeted head and clipping him on the ear. Then into the stage in the background where it was set, and unfortunately two people were shot. One of them died. But this is the angle, this is the trajectory, and this tree is highlighted on purpose along with this little yellow square here, because that is the sniper team element 1, currently the sniper team that is believed to have taken him out, though that is not confirmed yet. There was another sniper element just off the edge of this picture, and then farther on down I'll show you in another map. But I want you to get some perspectives if you've not seen a lot of the cell phone or the drone or helicopter footage from after the scene of what some of this looked like. So here is a ground view. One thing that's very important is that people are saying that there was 2 minutes, 3 minutes where law enforcement did nothing. They were being told about the incident. Well, here's a picture of a law enforcement officer. There's another one off the edge of the screen. It was tough getting the screen captured, but they are circling this building, attempting to get up. And one of the reports that an officer actually contacted Thomas Crooks by climbing up the ladder, and then he flashed his weapon. The officer ducks back down, getting ready to get some support and back up, and then Thomas takes his final position. He's going to go ahead and take his 3 or more shots at the president. And then let me move my face out of the way here. This is the ladder, and I'm going to call this ladder into question here in just a minute, because my experience, I have worked with the 3-letter federal agencies and various details, some politicians and famous people. And in doing this, they always set up days in advance. They do security sweeps, building sweeps. They come out and their marksman teams, whichever way you want to call it, designated marksmen, sniper teams, counter sniper teams, they draw diagrams, they take their positions. A lot of times they are in place for a day or so ahead of the event. Now, that's usually for active and sitting politicians. In this case, a former president should have had a pretty high-level security detail. This ladder, this whole building, this AGR building, which I'll show you on the bigger map that he actually took his shot from, should have been completely secured. Anybody that would have seen this ladder would have removed the ladder. They would have removed access to this building. So this is just gross negligence on the act of the Secret Service, or somebody would have had to carry this 10, 12-foot ladder across the scene. That would have been very obvious. Reports now are that he had his weapon in a case, making it slightly less obvious. The other thing that's going to be pretty shocking is how they were able to access this building at all during the event. There's usually a 400-plus buffer to any strategic or important buildings or land terrain items. So anything that is majorly noticeable needs to be addressed. It needs to be covered. It needs to be accounted for. There should have been multiple marksman teams, and for some reason, there were not. So looking at the overall scene right here, the 2 counter sniper teams, again, I'll move my head out of the way. The 2 counter sniper teams that we do know about, in fact, were placed on this roof. Underneath this map, if you remember from a couple slides ago, there's that highlighted white tree. That is almost certainly, because the red dot is confirmed to be over here on the roof. This guy right here almost certainly had to shoot through an obstructive or partially obstructed view, making it an incredible shot if he did so. This counter sniper team likely made the shot that took them out. In this picture right here, just a couple of tactical things. These look like bolt-action rifles. I'm going to make an assumption they're a .308 round. These are long-range rounds. They're not shooting back with what would be considered more close combat rounds like a 223, 5.56. These are probably 338 Lapua, maybe 308. They have really nice glass. The glass is the optics put on there. So these guys are capable of shooting 1,000 yards to a mile away. Here's a note that I want to make. These sniper or counter-sniper elements are very capable of making incredible shots very quickly, usually within 400 meters, honestly, probably out to about 1,000 meters, they should be able to do what's called clover their shots, which means if you fire 3 shots, all 3 of them are touching. Probably 400 yards or 400 meters and in, they're probably keyholing their shots. So the video game world likes to call it quick scope, where you just snap on your target and you make an accurate shot. These guys can do that in real life. So the fact that the reactive shot came very quickly, eliminated the threat. He fired at least 3 shots that we know of as recorded on video. But over here, I believe, based on the current information, this building or this building had a 3rd sniper element. Now, this would have been closer to a 300-yard shot if that team made it, but that is undetermined. And here's where the breakdown happens. There should have been multiple overlapping fields of fire for all these counter sniper elements. This is a water tower right here. Here's what's shocking to me about this entire event. This AGR building, that's what this building is that he climbed on, had a ladder left available that he was able to climb on. That is a gross negligent failure. This parking lot, upwards to the edge of the building, is upwards of within 100 yards of the president, and it was not in the secure zone. It was in the outer perimeter zone. That's where they do like purse checks, bag checks, wanding of metal detectors and things like that. But this place, a person could drive right up here within 120 or so yards of the president, hop out with a rifle and climb a building. That is gross negligence. Just so you are clear, this is the ultimate responsibility of the Secret Service. On-site security is often, and it's not uncommon to be turned over to maybe Homeland Security or local law enforcement. Local law enforcement in this country is the highest level of law enforcement that the world has known in its history. So that is a benefit, even though many like to tear down law enforcement. But you do not know technically the actual level of training and capabilities of every individual local law enforcement in the country. So they were trying to get up there, so we'll squash that myth that there was no law enforcement reaction. But if the outer perimeter is left to Homeland Security and local law enforcement, there's a failure there. They're trying to hold this bubble. But this building right here absolutely should have been secured. Secured parking lot, K9s available. Everyone should have seen this guy coming in with potentially a report of a rangefinder ranging out, and then the element should have seen him a long time ago. The slope of the roof is important because he would be in something called dead space. Anytime you can't see an area, there's just a hidden blind area in the tactical world. That's just referred to as dead space. So he was in dead space, crawling up onto the roof to these 2 sniper elements. And if this 3rd sniper elephant over here, which we'll find out in the days to come, they might not have seen him until he literally poked his head, barrel, and shoulders out and then took his shot. Again, I want to emphasize, I believe wholeheartedly that this guy missed for a couple of reasons. One, his rifle at 140, 150 yards. Again, from this angle, we're going to call it 115, just round it. That's a pretty easy shot, center mass, for any even average or mediocre shooter. Making a headshot immediately makes it harder. And as we saw in the video, just because he turned his head, he changed the trajectory and got hit in the ear. So he may have saved his own life just by turning. There's a mild wind that day, somewhere in the ballpark of 5 miles an hour. But this is really shocking to me that a sniper element would not have been placed on the roof itself. Look at this water tower up here at the top of the scene. That water tower should have had an overwatch element on top of it. Whoever made the decision not to place somebody on the highest feature in the area, again, they need to question those people. The on-site Secret Service person, commander, whatever their I don't know their 3-letter initial for the whoever's in command of the day, but that person, that's a badge and gun. There's a resignation needs to happen there. Your negligence, your failure to plan, your failure to appropriate resources and properly position your people resulted in a former president being shot. That's a turn in your badge type of scenario. Ask for resignation. The head of the Secret Service, Kim, she needs to absolutely turn in her badge. Absolute poor leadership coming out of that office. Nobody is taking accountability for this. The buck stops here. If a president is shot, former president, on your watch, that's your negligence. I don't care. You're the top of the food chain, and you need to resign. So again, back down. I know you guys have seen a lot of this stuff here, but here's where the logistics come in. And I know this is a longer video than what I'm used to, but there would have been days of planning ahead of this. There would have been people on site using bomb sniffing dogs. They would have been clearing vehicles. Anything that was abandoned would have been removed from the scene. Things like ladders and breaching tools, and even like bricks where somebody could start a riot or break a window. Those are generally removed from the scene or secured. The fact that these counter snipers were not in place a long time ahead of time and nobody saw that ladder is highly concerning. The fact that nobody saw that ladder is highly concerning. And then when he climbed on the roof, there were efforts made. And the reason I know the ladder was there ahead of time is because the officer reports climbing the ladder to get after him. So we get in this situation. That's how it's set up. This guy probably can't see what he's supposed to be targeting. He probably is looking across all of these rooftops trying to get exact location, and it's very possible that all three of these people took the shot that resulted in taking him out. So here's the actual shot. It zips right by his ear. And then, of course, you know the reaction. He grabs his ear. The second shot rings out. He's hitting the ground. Here's some of the stuff that went really well. We had the immediate engagement from that famous picture. And then we had the Secret Service, the first 2 or 3 guys on the Secret Service, the people assigned to the body of the president, they did their job. Okay, they jumped on there. I like all of them. I like their reactions. I like what they did. And then this guy immediately runs from the front of the stage up the stairs, and he creates what is nicknamed a meat shield. He becomes a human shield. He puts his plates towards the threat. He's eyeballing the target. If he doesn't have the shot, he's got his gun in the ready position, finger off the trigger. Highly trained individual, responded without any hesitation, and literally made himself a meat shield for the president, just like all of them. They eventually form what's called the Diamond. They're pigpiling the president right now, making sure they are as well meat shields, and they of course have all kinds of armor and stuff, and they are getting ready to get him up. Lots of good communication in there. That's very common, dignitary protection communication, and they eventually got the president out there. But I want you guys to know that these guys responded very quickly. Why he came out of his glass, why he came out of his optics meeting, I don't know. I can only assume he was burning through the brush, or he was making some type of adjustment, but his quick shot really did the job. Here's some of the areas of concern for me. And again, I want you guys to understand that there's no minority issue here. There's no anti-women. I employ mostly women. I think that I prefer them as employees. But in this scenario right here, I want you to look at the president. I believe he's 6'2", 6'3". And these women, even though hunched over slightly tactically, they do not cover the body of the president. Now, he's on the side step. I'm going to be as objective as possible. He's on the side step of the SUV trying to get that fist pump in and show that he's a survivor of this incident. But even so, look at them compared to all of the men around. All of these men are the height of Donald Trump, and they are able to fully protect his body. They cannot be the designated meat shield. And you can see the flatness of the vests right here. So you know they're armored and they're equipped. They're ready to do their job. But the reports are, and I want everyone to pay attention to the news, it is reported that the Secret Service element not assigned to the body of the president, but the surrounding, the secondary, and possibly some of the tertiary elements were replaced just a day or two prior and put over to Joe Biden's counter event that was in Pittsburgh. And they replaced these people with younger, newer, more green rookie officers. And they also, this is an opinion, that they supposedly did it so that they would have more females on scene and more diversity representation. Guys, is this scenario where diversity representation, I'm sorry, if they can do the job, if they can fully protect the president, if they can lift his fallen body, an unconscious body, and drag it to safety, I don't care who you are, you can get the job. It is obvious this is not an appropriate meat shield for the president. They cannot protect his body. The other thing that really troubles me is, even though this is a highly stressful situation, adrenaline dumps for everybody involved, almost certainly, this agent here eventually has trouble even reholstering her weapon and calming back down. That is a major training issue. These other people here on the scene, usually they respond pretty well. Of course, here's Donald Trump with his bloody ear. I just want you to see the height difference, people. I want you to see the height. We're talking maybe a foot of height difference between the people that are assigned to the body president. That is a major concern. The leadership that assigned these bodies to the president did wrong. They screwed up. So that's a big important part I want you guys to take away. I'm going to flash back here real quick as well. That there should have also been, if for some reason you cannot cover this rooftop, maybe there was the excuse that it wasn't safe. So Kim Cheadle, the Secret Service head, stated that, oh, it was unsafe to put people up there. Well, if it's unsafe to put people up there, you have to cover it. You have to eliminate, you have to restrict access. If you have this wide open shooting lane with a ladder attached to it, there are easy ways for you to obstruct the view. You can bring over here, and they had cranes with American flags, and they had a giant Trump presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation being played. And right here, even the movies do this well. When they're trying to mislead somebody in the movies, they bring over like a box truck, or they bring over a big banner, walks by the scene and blocks the camera so the magician can do whatever. You could have literally put up some patriotic balloons. You could put up a banner. You could move in a box truck. You could literally park one of those extension boom trucks right here with a sniper element in a boom truck and overwatch the building. All of these things were acts of negligence or purposeful. I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, but the sizable gap in access to the president draws me into serious question as a former tactical leader and people who was responsible for others' lives. Man, this cost a lot today. If there was a purposely negligent act or decision that said, hey, I'm aware of a threat, I know something, there's a gap in the coverage, and we're just not going to cover it. We're not going to provide the resources. Immediately can that person. They need to resign yesterday. That is awful, absolutely awful that occurred. So, guys, I want you to understand that there's a leadership breakdown. The resources were there. There should have been drone coverage. I don't know why there wasn't drone coverage during the event. That would allow them in roughly 90 seconds to 2 to even possibly 3 minutes to immediately locate that person and say, hey, he's on. And all these buildings are labeled. Everyone's going to have a, hey, building Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. They're going to label these buildings. They're going to have the o'clock scales. Hey, we're looking at, Alpha building, 2 o'clock, and everybody would have thrown their eyes on target and been able to coordinate. There are special languages, there's diagrams that the snipers draw up so everybody knows where to look, what to do, and there was a serious breakdown this day. It's hard to believe that all of these breakdowns occurred by accident. So I want you guys to look at this video, like, comment, do what you need to do. I'm going to release out more content because I keep getting these questions, but hopefully that answers the basics. These guys are highly trained. It looks like most everyone that was responding to the situation did exactly what they were supposed to. Some hiccups in what looks like some of the stress response and some of the size and the training of a couple of the agents, but overall the response to evacuate and get him out there, and Trump being who he is made their job a little difficult by fist pumping his way into the car and shouting to the crowd. But this is to be continued. I will be doing more of these videos based on my tactical background. This is ultimately coming from CS Business Consulting, and if you want to find me or more about what I'm doing on the other capacity of these with the leadership and the background, Ryan Forge's Leaders is where you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok. So Ryan Forge's Leaders, all one word, is the way to find me, and I look forward to releasing the next video for everyone.